Most people drift through life unaware of the invisible architecture shaping every interaction, every alliance, every refusal, every opportunity offered or denied, and they wander like blind men through a kingdom built entirely on signals they cannot read. But you must walk differently, with the cold precision of a man who knows that power does not sit in thrones or crowns, but in the quiet exchanges between people who can change your trajectory, because the ruthless truth is this: every social circle is a battlefield, and every handshake is a negotiation of dominance, faith, and usefulness. You will meet individuals who at first seem ordinary, but they are not. They are gateways to hidden rooms, to networks humming with influence, to circles of people who control decisions that ripple far beyond their own lives. Yet these gates open only for those who carry themselves like someone meant to enter. Understand this early. People trust strength, people respect competence, and people follow consistency. Nobody is drawn to the shaky man who doubts his value, who second-guesses his words, who hesitates when conviction is required. The world is a stage, yes, but more importantly, it is a filter. It separates the self-assured from the self-defeated long before the conversation even begins. That is why you must master your presence before you master your speech, because presence is the silent prelude that determines whether your voice will be heard at all. When you walk into a room, you are not merely entering a physical space. You are intruding upon people's stories, insecurities, ambitions, fears, and hidden agendas. They evaluate you in seconds, and they store their judgment for years. So you must move with intentional gravity, like a man who has already earned respect even before he speaks, because perception precedes truth, and in the games of influence, perception often becomes truth. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote that people judge more by the eye than by the hand. Appearances, he said, matter more than reality. You must learn to wield this. You must learn to project reliability, capability, and stability, even when internally you are constructing yourself brick by brick. Appear unshakable, and people begin to trust you with information they would never give a weaker man. Appear valuable, and people begin to weave you into opportunities they would never offer a man who appears lost. This is how influence works. Not through force, not through begging, not through needy gestures, but through the gravitational pull of implied competence. The greatest mistake rookies make when trying to build connections is desperation. They chase people instead of allowing people to drift toward them. They over-explain, overshare, overreach, and in doing so, they accidentally broadcast the message that they are looking for someone stronger to lean on. But people with power do not want another weight to carry. They want stability. They want relevance. They want someone who can expand their reach or elevate their environment. If you cannot offer that, you are forgotten as quickly as you appeared. So the first law is simple. Become a man who stabilizes a room. When others panic, you stay composed. When others complain, you stay strategic. When others drown in emotion, you stand clear-eyed. People remember the calm man. People trust the calm man. People associate calm with mastery. And in a world ruled by chaos, mastery becomes a currency rarer and more valuable than gold. Once you have cultivated this presence, you must refine the second layer of power: selective attention. You cannot give your energy to everyone. You must create an aura of focus that is both precise and scarce. High-value individuals instinctively respond to scarcity. When they see that you do not spread yourself thin, that your time is preserved, that your words are measured, they begin to view your attention as something meaningful, something that elevates the moment you grant it. This is why speaking less often achieves more. This is why listening strategically creates alliances more powerful than speaking endlessly. People long to feel seen, but they do not want to feel exposed. Your task is to master the art of observing without intruding, understanding without interrogating, reading without revealing that you are reading. Every man carries silent confessions inside him. The ones who know how to hear them without being told become indispensable. But do not mistake observation for softness. Your gaze must be sharp, your boundaries unmistakable. A man with no boundaries becomes a social doormat even if his intentions are pure. You must learn to say no without apology, to decline invitations that drain you, to refuse alliances that do not align with your long-term direction. Power is not built through addition but through refinement. Choose the few you stand beside carefully. A single strong ally is worth more than 100 shallow acquaintances. Even the strong ally must be kept at a respectful distance, because familiarity is the enemy of mystique. If people believe they understand you fully, they will underestimate you. If they believe they cannot predict you, they will respect you twice as much. This is why your conversations must carry undertones. Never give the whole truth. Never reveal the full plan. Never expose every layer of your thinking. Speak like a man who has more behind him than he shows, because mystery extends influence by giving people something to imagine, and humans always imagine bigger than reality. But remember this as well. Power is not only about projecting strength, it is also about avoiding unnecessary enemies. Do not provoke confrontation unless it brings measurable gain. The wise man studies conflict like an investor, studies risk. He does not jump into battle because of pride or impulse. He chooses his wars intentionally, striking only when the reward outweighs the cost. And before striking, he ensures that his position is unassailable. You must do the same. Build your value before you demand recognition. Build your connections before you attempt to influence decisions. Build your power quietly, long before you display it. Then, when the time comes to step forward, people will not question your rise. They will say, "It feels inevitable." But for this inevitability to take shape, you must understand the social ladder, not as a hierarchy of wealth or fame, but as a hierarchy of usefulness. Every person you meet is asking the same silent question: how does knowing you benefit my world? This may sound brutal, but it is true. And once you accept this truth, you stop taking things personally and start thinking strategically. You start presenting yourself not as a burden, not as a fan, not as a hungry man seeking approval, but as a force that expands their domain. You speak in ways that add clarity, not confusion. You add direction, not noise. You bring solutions, not problems. The more you do this, the more powerful people begin to respect you. Not because they like you. Liking is irrelevant, but because you become an asset. And assets are cherished differently from friends. But in the shadows of this rise, you must guard yourself from one fatal mistake: believing that early access equals acceptance. Just because someone is friendly does not mean they consider you equal. Just because someone praises you does not mean they trust you. Just because someone brings you into their circle does not mean you are safe. Many open their doors only to observe you closely, to assess your weaknesses, to study your behavior. You must assume you are being evaluated even in moments of laughter. This is not paranoia, it is discipline. Elite circles test newcomers constantly, subtly, silently. They analyze how you react to disrespect, how you handle pressure, how easily you reveal insecurity, how quickly you chase validation. Fail these tests, and they shut you out forever. Pass them, and you become one of the rare few who earn long-term access to influence that cannot be bought. But survival in these circles requires one more skill: the ability to detach your emotions from your interactions. Never expect loyalty. Never demand fairness. Never assume reciprocity. High-level environments operate on a logic colder than anything you learned growing up. People shift alliances like the wind shifts direction. They adjust loyalties based on advantage, not affection. And you must not resent this, you must embody it. Adaptation is not betrayal. It is survival. It is evolution. A wise man does not cling to people, he clings to purpose. Let connections expand your power, but do not let them define it. Keep one foot in the circle and one foot outside, always prepared to walk away without collapsing. Because the moment someone senses that you need them, you lose leverage. But the moment they sense that you value them without depending on them, you gain respect. This duality, connection without attachment, presence without desperation, value without submission, is the essence of real social power. Master it, and every room becomes navigable, every network becomes available, every opportunity becomes reachable. And as you rise, remember the most Machiavellian truth of all. The world rewards the man who acts like he belongs long before he is invited. Now hold this understanding, because the second part will reveal how to convert presence into power and power into silent dominance. Now that you understand the architecture of presence and the gravity of controlled demeanor, you must learn how power evolves from silent influence into strategic dominance. Because presence alone opens doors, but strategy determines what you do once inside. And this is where most men fail, not because they lack potential, but because they enter powerful circles with the mindset of spectators instead of architects, waiting to be chosen instead of positioning themselves to be indispensable. You must stop thinking like someone hoping for an opportunity and start thinking like someone evaluating whether others are worthy of your alignment. Because this shift in perspective changes everything: your tone, your posture, your timing, your value, your presence, even the way people interpret your silence. You move from being a passive participant to a quiet evaluator, and people notice when they are being assessed by someone who is self-assured and composed. This is where influence is born. Elite environments operate like invisible systems, constantly assessing who brings the most valuable attributes: foresight, clarity, emotional control, effectiveness, social intelligence, and strategic awareness. If you lack these qualities, you may be tolerated but rarely respected. If you embody them, you become essential. But the foundation of these abilities is one principle: you must be difficult to influence. High-level individuals observe carefully to see who adjusts, who falters, who reacts emotionally instead of thoughtfully, who follows trends rather than thinking independently. They do this through subtle tests: indirect comments meant to gauge confidence, delayed responses to measure patience, last-minute invitations to test self-respect, contradictory guidance to evaluate independent thinking, temporary exclusion from conversations to observe composure. If any of these elicit visible reaction, you lose leverage. The person who reacts becomes predictable. The predictable person becomes easier to influence, and the easily influenced person loses standing. Therefore, you must cultivate a rare quality: unshakable presence. Nothing moves you unless you choose to respond. Nothing unsettles you unless it serves your awareness. Nothing redirects you unless you allow it. This mindset reflects Machiavelli's advice for leaders to be adaptable, yet resolute, thoughtful, yet steady. Once others recognize that they cannot provoke you into reaction, you gain psychological influence without needing to assert authority. Silence is not passivity. It is a tool. It encourages others to reveal intentions, fill gaps, and clarify positions. Yet silence alone is not sufficient. You must also master narrative influence. Every setting, professional, social, or creative, operates on stories, and the person who shapes the narrative shapes the environment. Narrative influence is subtle, integrated into the rhythm of conversations, highlighted in moments when clarity is sought, and expressed through the quiet confidence of someone with perspective beyond those around them. When confusion arises, you provide a precise summary. When uncertainty spreads, you offer one line that guides understanding. When perspectives conflict, you present a balanced viewpoint that restores direction. People remember those who simplify complexity, follow those who resolve what others cannot, and trust those who create order without imposing authority. This is the power of narrative, elevating you to a level of subconscious leadership, the most impactful tier. Because as people rely on your clarity, they begin aligning actions with your perspective. Your viewpoint becomes a compass, and the one who sets the compass quietly guides the environment. Even narrative influence is limited if you cannot protect your value. This brings the principle of strategic distance. You must avoid constant availability. No matter how welcoming the environment or friendly the circle, constant access diminishes mystique. Predictability reduces respect, and continual presence can make you overlooked, taken for granted, or replaced. Instead, create a rhythm of presence and absence, where your contributions feel meaningful, your insights feel significant, and your attention feels like a resource. This is not manipulation. It is careful self-management. When you distance yourself appropriately, people begin to perceive coherence in their environment when you are present. Absence enhances perceived value more than constant presence. Maintaining distance requires discipline, because others may attempt to draw you into minor disputes, unnecessary drama, insecurities, or conflicts. Engaging on their level diminishes the perspective that grants influence. You must remain outside the noise, even when tempted. Hold yourself to the principle that not every disagreement requires your engagement. Not every discussion demands your insight, and not every invitation merits acceptance. Power grows by subtraction more than addition. Remove distractions, remove emotional obligations, remove unnecessary engagements, remove interactions that lead nowhere. Every subtraction deepens your presence, sharpens your aura, and elevates your position. But there is another layer you must master: the strategy of selective alliance. Connections alone do not make you powerful. Aligned connections do. You must seek alliances that strengthen your trajectory, not your ego. The charismatic but directionless person will drain you. The intelligent but bitter person will sabotage you. The ambitious but insecure person will envy you. The influential but unethical person will eventually betray you. You must study people with the cold accuracy of a strategist, not the naive warmth of someone hoping to be liked. Ask yourself, does their presence sharpen me or soften me? Does their worldview expand mine or narrow it? Do they speak with direction or drift? Do they act with intention or impulse? Are they builders or destroyers? Do they respond to pressure with clarity or collapse? Your circle becomes your fate, especially in high-level environments where alliances determine opportunities, invitations, and exposure. The wrong alliance can anchor you to mediocrity for years. The right alliance can elevate your influence overnight. But alliances must never cost you your autonomy. You must stay free enough to walk away at any moment. Dependence corrupts strategy. Attachment corrupts intuition. Emotional loyalty corrupts judgment. You must practice controlled closeness. Warm enough to be trusted, distant enough to remain unpredictable. And unpredictability is essential, because predictable men are easy to control, while unpredictable men create psychological tension that commands respect. But unpredictability does not mean chaos. It means calculated variability. Sometimes you are warm, sometimes reserved. Sometimes you advise, sometimes you observe. Sometimes you engage, sometimes you withdraw. Not randomly, strategically. People must feel that they know you, but not fully. They must feel comfortable, but never complacent. They must feel aligned, but never entitled. This is the balance that turns you from participant to presence. And as your influence grows, a new danger emerges: the temptation of ego. Many men sabotage their ascent because they mistake early access for supremacy, forgetting that power is not granted, it is rented, and rent is due through consistency. The moment you boast, you lose mystique. The moment you overshare, you lose leverage. The moment you speak without thinking, you lose precision. And the moment you assume you're untouchable, you lose everything. You must stay disciplined even when elevated. You must stay calculating even when praised. You must stay observant even when embraced. The higher you rise, the more silent your strategy must become. Let others reveal their hunger for validation. Let others show their dependence on recognition. You remain the man who needs nothing from the room yet shapes it entirely. This is true dominance. Influence without noise. Effect without effort. Presence without performance. But to maintain this dominance, you must master one final law, the law of controlled transformation. You must evolve faster than others can predict. Reinvent your worldview. Upgrade your skill set. Refine your presence. Sharpen your communication. Expand your understanding. And elevate your strategic thinking. When people believe they have you figured out, you must become someone new. When they assume your limits, you must quietly exceed them. When they think they understand your patterns, you must disrupt them. Not through theatrics, but through silent evolution. Power decays in stagnation. Influence expands in reinvention. And the man who transforms consistently becomes a moving target impossible to categorize, difficult to undermine, and indispensable to the environments he enters. You become the anomaly people cannot replace, the stabilizer people rely on, the silent force shaping outcomes without ever needing credit. And this is the final truth of elite social power. Dominance is not declared, it is felt. It is sensed in the stillness of your presence, the precision of your words, the timing of your actions, the restraint of your ego, the sharpness of your boundaries, the silence of your judgment, and the cold clarity of your purpose. Master these, and you no longer walk into rooms, you reorient them. But your ascent is only beginning, and the next lesson will cut deeper than anything you have learned here, because it will reveal not how to enter powerful circles, but how to reshape them from within, quietly, relentlessly, and without permission.